Hello.
Hey, Tony.
Good evening,
Hello.
Bill here.
Hey, Steve.
Evening.
Gene, I can hear you.
Yeah, you can hear me, but I don't have a camera. They dropped my phone the other day and I haven't had a chance to go over and replace it. So you're lucked out. You don't have to look at me.
As long as you're there. Okay. Okay, it's 6:30. So I'm gonna open the Board of Selectmen's meeting on Wednesday, August 2nd at 6:30. I see that there's a quorum in place. I know Josh is running a little late. As a matter of fact, I see him walking through his house right now on my porch. So he should be with us in a minute. But let's get going. I'll start with the opening comments. Let's see, 2023 resident parking stickers now available for purchase at nahant.org. Parking stickers are $10 each. All outstanding bills must be paid to the town and a census must be completed. Compost area open on Wednesday and Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. 2023 resident parking stickers are required. Visit the Public Works page at nahant.org for a full list of acceptable materials. Recycling for metal, white goods, TVs, and computers. Last Saturday of each month until October 28th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. behind the DPW garage at Clash Road. Resident stickers required. Visit Public Works Department at nahant.org for accepted materials. Certain fees may be applied. Market by the Sea, formerly Nahant Farmers Market, Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Flash Road Park, August 19th, September 16th, and October 14th. For more information or to become a vendor, visit the market page at nahant.org or email ktaylor@nahant.org. Vacancies on boards and committees: Board of Assessors, Cemetery Advisory Committee, Conservation Commission, Cultural Council, Historic Commission, and Planning Board. Send a letter of interest to Kate Taylor at nahant.org if you're interested in joining. Job openings: DBW skilled laborer, accepting applications until position is filled. For the full-time job description, visit the employment opportunities page at nahant.org or email ktaylor@nahant.org. Touch a Truck Day, Tuesday, August 8th at 10 a.m. There will be a Touch a Truck in the fire department parking lot with vehicles and trucks from the Nahant Fire Department, DPW, police, and emergency management. Okay, Jane, any opening comments? Jane, you there?
We lost Gene, but Josh is on now.
Oh, Josh.
Great.
Good.
Hi, sorry to be a little bit late, got hung up at work, but I do not have any additional opening comments.
Okay, we have a public hearing tonight on a vote to approve an application for a new annual all alcoholic beverage club license for the Nahant Veterans Association at 96 Nahant Road, Nahant, Mass. Josh, do I have a motion so we can open discussion on this?
I'm just logging into my.
Okay, let me make the
Sorry.
motion. You can second it.
Okay,
I
thank
move.
you.
I move that the Board of Selectmen, acting as the local licensing authority, open the public hearing. I just need a second from you, Josh.
Seconded.
Seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye. Josh Antrim, aye.
Mark Cullen, aye. Okay, second motion, I move that the board of Selectmen, acting as the local licensing authority, vote to approve a new annual all alcoholic beverage club license to the Nahant Veterans Association, 96 Nahant Road, Nahant, Mass. 01908, and further that the release of said licenses are subject to the approval of all inspections and payments of all outstanding fees, fines, payments to the town of Nahant. Do I have a second on that motion?
Seconded.
Seconded. Hearing discussions. I know we have a number of people on tonight that want to speak to this. Tony, do you want to start it off?
I know that, the Veterans Association, with, the American Legion, have been working on this for quite some time and are happy to be presenting it to us. They host a number of community events and lead the way on a lot of those, lead the way on behalf of the town on a lot of those events, especially military related events that are just important to our community, along with a lot of other fundraising efforts and things of that nature. So I'll pass it off to Bob Fields or Steve Smith to speak more about it. Thank you guys for being here tonight.
And why don't we start with Bob, and then we go to Steve. Steve, I'm sure, is representing the Veterans Association on this effort. So Bob, floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, I would just like to, continue to, express appreciation for the support of the town, for the town's veterans, and for the American Legion specifically. We're really, happy and proud to partner with the town on many of the events, like Tony has mentioned, and we look forward to, continuing, that history and that partnership to even, higher heights, if you will, right? I mean, it's the Legion and the veterans in town have really had a resurgence over these last few years, and we're honoring our history. We don't take credit, for where we're at. We stand on the shoulders, of giants, that have served and enabled us to be in a position to serve. And, just look to, kind of close this loop, right? Make things a little bit easier for all of us, so we're not, back here for the 1 days, and have that flexibility of being able to host events, without being a burden on the town. I think we've been great partners, great neighbors, and have been running a great operation for, many years. So appreciate your support.
Thank you, Bob. Steve, do you want to talk about?
Yes, briefly. And Bob is speaking not just as a member and an officer of the Veterans Association, but he's also proposed manager of the facility. And I would hope that the town could take confidence that he would be the person in charge under the license. And I know it's easy to say from this side of the screen, but this appears to be, I think, what I call a safe vote for the Board of Selectmen if they were to approve the license. The Veterans Association is a known entity. They've been down. I know the sublease was back in 2010, Mark. I think you both recall going through that process. So they've been there for 12 plus years. During that period, they've received, at the discretion of the Board of Selectmen, a number of one-day licenses, and I don't know of any single incident where there's been a problem. And so they have a history, of managing under a license properly. And if there were, the Board of Selectmen are also the local licensing authority. You have the ability to call them in and to question if there's any mismanagement. And so we've got a known entity. You retain complete control. I'd ask the board's consideration of granting the license. I prepared the application. If there's any questions regarding information on the applications, and I'd hope I do my best to answer those for you.
Thank you, Steve. And I agree with you 100%. I don't recall of any instances down there where we had a problem. I am, for one, sick of issuing one-day liquor licenses down there. I think it's about time we make it permanent. I'm fully in support of this. I think that Bob, as manager, and his team have done a terrific job over the years. And again, I support this 100%. Josh?
Yeah, same here. You know, the American Legion is continuously holding events that benefit the community. And as Steve said, there's never been an incident. And it's, from a practical point of view, it makes a lot of sense rather than applying for one-day licenses, 12 times a year or whatever the number is. It's just a practical and efficient choice, I think. So I also fully support this.
All right, great. Jane, are you on?
Yes, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Just quickly, Bob knows I've been pushing this for the last year to see if we can get them on board with this. But my only question is, just for informational purposes, what is the difference, if there are any, in a club license and a regular license?
I'll answer that, and town council can correct me. The club license is only for use of serving members of the club and guests of members while the members are present.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any further discussion on this motion?
Don't forget, Mr. Chair, we need to invite the public to weigh in too.
That's right. I'm sorry. This is a public hearing. So is there anybody in the public that would like to speak against the issuance of this license?
If so, you can unmute yourself. Or if you're struggling with that, you can put a comment in the chat.
Tony, you let me
Chat.
know.
Nothing in the chat.
Okay, is there anybody in the public that want to speak in favor of issuing this club license? Nothing, Tony?
Nothing in the chat.
Okay, I'll close the public discussion portion of this hearing.
Well, we have to vote on this, right?
Yeah, we have to vote on it. But we're ending the public discussion on it, and now we're voting on the motion.
Josh,
Gene
Antrim, aye.
Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen and I. I have a motion to close the hearing.
I move
Motion made.
to close the public hearing of the Board of Selectmen acting as the local licensing authority.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Gene Canty, aye.
Josh, Antrim, aye.
Mark Cullen and I. Thanks. Good luck, Bob. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, we're in new business. We need a vote to adjust the town meeting quorum requirements.
I can make that motion.
Why don't we make the motion and then we have a discussion on it? Go ahead, Josh.
Okay, I move that pursuant to section 7 of chapter 92 of the Acts of 2020, the Board of Selectmen vote to reduce the requisite quorum for town meeting from 75 to 30.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion on the motion. Tony, want to fill us in on this?
Yes. The Acts of 2020 allowed for town meetings to reduce quorum, especially due to, public health related concerns with large crowds. We actually attempted to do this at the last town meeting, but we missed the 7-day public posting requirement, so we couldn't take the vote. And it ended up being, we did get some questions prior to town meeting about whether there would be, masks required, and social distancing. We ended up being a fairly well-attended meeting in the spring, but thankfully, we had no public health issues. So the law allows us to reduce quorum to 10% of our current minimum amount. So we could go as low as 7.5 people. But we obviously don't, we don't need to go that low. I suspect that we're going to we'll likely probably hit 75 anyways. But just as a precaution, and it's going to be a Tuesday night in September. It's a special town meeting. We want to make sure we get quorum so that we're able to proceed with the article on the warrant. And the other, just quickly, there's a requirement, not only to post it in your local newspaper, which we did, but also to get approval from the moderator. And I've received that from Dave Conlon.
Great. Thank you for the explanation, Tony. Any further discussion? Josh or Gene?
I guess I'd just say that I fully expect we'll have 75 people, but it's a nice precaution, as Tony has pointed out, given the fact that it's a special town meeting on Tuesday night. We don't want to go to the effort of setting that up and have it fall short because we don't have the quorum of 75 people. But I do fully expect that we will have 75 people, but it's a nice precaution to take.
Thank you, Josh. Gene?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, I agree with you, Josh. It's a good precaution. Although sometimes, it could be a double-edged sword. Having 75, sometimes, people, realize they have to get there in order for the town meeting to proceed. You start lowering it. But I think for a special town meeting, I think it's a good precaution to take, and I support this. Any further discussion on this motion? Seeing and hearing none.
There's a comment. There's just Michelle in the chat asked if public could comment on this. So
Sure.
I don't know if you want to allow.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with that. Let's just restrict public. If public wants to comment on this particular motion, that's fine. You can open it up, Tony.
All right, Michelle, go ahead. Just announce your name and address, please.
Thank you. Michelle Capano, 29 Ocean Street. The question I have is, the state isn't under a pandemic anymore, so why are we citing something that no longer exists? The governor lifted that order, I thought, in May.
The state legislature extended the acts of 2020 until, I believe, Dan, correct me, but I think it's March of 2025.
Yeah, that's right. And it actually goes beyond the state of emergency. It actually specifically references the variants of the COVID virus. So it's not just a state of emergency. And given that they put a definite date on the ability to do this, they're sort of insinuating that that's what they deem to be the end of the actual variant COVID issue. So it's still
It's the same act that allows us to meet in this capacity tonight.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Any further discussion from the public, Tony?
Not that I see.
Okay. If there's no more discussion, I'll call for a vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Josh Antrim, aye.
Mark Cullen and I. Tony, I see there's a vote for the extension of the Kelly Greens lease. Is that on tonight, or are we postponing that?
So we're not going to vote on it tonight. The Kelly Greens committee, the golf committee, notified Dan and I that they had voted to extend or recommend that the lease be extended. There was some back and forth. Wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of it. The lease speaks to extension we can extend it twice for 5 years at a time. Dan, I don't know if it gives you the option of extending it once for 10 years total.
No, it's 2 different extensions for 5 years. The idea is that you do it sort of basically one step at a time. And keep in mind, the current lease ends on February 20th, 2026. So this extension would start on the 26th and extend it 5 years to 31.
So they're coming in early, and we wanted to make sure you guys were aware of it. The reason being is I believe that the current lessees are interested in making some capital improvements, either to the course. I'm not really sure what improvements they're referring to yet, but with the extended lease, it would help them with financial assistance. So wanted to just put it on your radar that the golf committee has supported that and recommended it. And it's something that Dan and I are looking into. And we'll go back and forth with the committee as to any questions that you guys might have.
Okay, great. So when we do vote on this, Tony, could we have either the chair of the golf committee with us or any other members with the committee? In case any members of the public have some questions?
Yes.
Yeah. I think we'd want to understand what those capital improvements are, well in advance of that lease extension as well. Yeah, I mean, certainly doesn't sound like there's a huge rush on it from the legal perspective, in terms of the lease renewal, but yeah, I mean, from what I hear, they seem to be doing a nice job, and capital improvements are nice as well.
And certainly, Josh, as you said, that if they're going to make some major capital investments, they want to make sure that it's spread out over time, and they reap the benefits of their expenditures. So, let's put it on the next meeting if that's what they want, Tony, and please have them be in attendance.
Will do.
Okay, before we leave new business, there's a few things I think I could bring up here, Tony. I know that a lot of people have been reading the Lynn item about Kings Beach and the contamination of King Beach, and some people proposing to extend an outfall on King Beach about 4,000 feet or something that may or may not affect Nahant. But could you address that for us?
Yes, and I actually had it. I had it on my notes here to talk about it later, but I'm happy to do it now.
Okay.
There was a couple articles in the news recently about Kings Beach and the closures for swimming because of high bacteria amounts, and essentially it's because they have an outfall pipe there. Zach and I thank every day. We're thankful that we don't have a combined sewer and stormwater system here in Nahant, because that's what Swampscott and Lynn is dealing with. And so when with heavy rains and flooding, their combined system overflows and ends up polluting the beach. It's a serious problem, and obviously, we support. I think you guys have spoke with each of you individually, and I think it's fair to say that we support, any and all efforts of Swampscott, Lynn, and the Friends of Long Beach on trying to fix that problem. One of the items mentioned in the article was they were talking about some UV ray application to help to eliminate bacteria on the beach, and also the potential for a 4,500 foot extension of the outfall pipe out to sea. And obviously that's alarming for our community because how could that potentially impact us? I spoke with the undersecretary at EEA, at the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, earlier this week or last week. right after that article came out, and let them know that, you know, we had some concerns about that, and she was very receptive and appreciative of my call. Assured me that in no way they would ever, you know, allow for some solution that would cause a negative impact on a neighboring community. So she also mentioned, you know, both of those items that were listed in the article are not close to coming to fruition right now. You know, they're talking about it. It's discussion. You know, one is $25 million, the others is $50 million. So, you know, they don't really even have funding identified right now. So it's not something that's going to be built, you know, in the next year. And anything that would be built would require some sort of treatment before, you know, discharging into the ocean water, and certainly how that could affect Nahant would be part of the process. So we've alerted the state of our concerns about that. I also, you know, have received some inquiries about, you know, how is Kings Beach and Long Beach closed and Nahant beaches aren't. You know, I don't think even Fisherman's Beach is closed, which is much closer than Short Beach. So I wanted to kind of talk quickly, if it's okay, talk a little bit about how that works.
Sure.
We test our beaches every week, and the beaches that we test are Short Beach, Doggy Beach, Tudor Beach, and 40 Steps Beach. And the way that the test works is it's actually based on, it's a deviation of the norm. So one of the biggest issues with Kings Beach is that they've had so many negative tests in a row that it requires that their beach be closed for an extended period of time.
Negative or positive?
They've had negative results in the test that required it to close.
Oh, negative meaning no swimming.
Right.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
And so if Kings Beach tests at a certain level of bacteria, and it's required to close, if Nahant's beach, like Short Beach, tested at a much lower amount of bacteria, but it was still too much of a deviation from our typical, you know, testing results, we would close. So even the slightest impact from the bacteria levels of our neighboring beaches here in Nahant could possibly trigger a closure. In other words, it's not a certain standard amount of bacteria that triggers a closing. It's if your beach tests abnormally compared to, you know, how it regularly tests. So the fact that we aren't being required to close means that we're really not catching any impact from the closures of our neighboring communities. But we do test them every week. If something tests negative, we test again. And we recently, I just want to share my screen. So we do have red flags out when a beach is closed for swimming. We put red flags right there at the beach. But we've also updated our homepage and our beach coastal resources page on the website. So now on nahant.org, right here on the right, and this will be up all summer long, and we'll do this every summer. It tells you what, you know, our beaches. It gives you, you know, when this was updated last. So we tested on Monday. Results came back on Tuesday, and all 4 of the beaches that we test are open. We also get a lot of calls and questions from, you know, about whether Long Beach, whether the causeway is open or closed. And so we have a link here. We don't test that. We don't control that. So we have a link here that would bring you to the state's website. And if I kind of don't like how the state's website is set up because it should be clear here, if the beach is not listed, that means it's open. Unfortunately, it doesn't say that very clearly. But essentially, if Nahant, if you search Nahant here, the reservation would show up if it was closed. Since it has no matching records found, it's not closed currently. Also, if you click on our beaches, it brings you, we updated this page where again, your water quality testing results are on the right side. And we added some information about the beaches that we are testing. If you click on these links, it'll show you, where that beach exists. So we've, tried to improve public education about water quality testing results, which I think we've done a good job with that. And we've expressed our concerns to the state regarding Kings Beach extension.
Thank you, Tony, for the explanation. I'll only say that I served for 8 years as a commissioner on the Metropolitan Beach Commission, and Kings Beach has historically been an issue. And I agree with everyone concerned that needs to be addressed. And as Representative Amani said, it should be addressed for this generation, not for the next generation. I support that totally. But I think that the remediation has to happen at the source first. They have to find where that combined sewer overflow is. They have to fix it. And that's the start. I don't think pushing it out 4,000 feet into the ocean is a way to fix it. It's just pushing the water, pushing the contamination out further that may affect other communities. So thanks for looking into this, Tony. I really appreciate it. I do hope at some point in time we can have some better testing than we do now. I'm not a big fan of this testing method. Hopefully at some point we can get instantaneous results. I'm glad we test on Mondays because it takes about 24 hours for incubation, and it will give us time to retest in order to open the beaches for weekends. So I'm glad you got the testing done on Mondays, so we have some time during the week in the event that we do have a negative test, to test again and have it open for the weekends. There are not that many weekends in the summer, and I certainly don't want to lose one. So thanks for looking into this, and I want to thank Vi Swim for their involvement in this. They're on top of this, and I appreciate their work on this. Josh or Gene, any comments?
Yeah, if I could. Go ahead, George.
No, you, please go, Gene.
Okay. Now, I just want to make it as simple as possible and follow up with what Mark said, because he's totally correct in that moving it out to 4,500 feet is going to create, I don't know how serious a problem, but a serious problem, because we have a counterclockwise current in the Nahant Bay, and we have an easterly direction of wave action. So what happens is that counterclockwise current moves across Red Rock and moves across Little Nahant, which act as barriers now. You take it out 4,500 feet, it's going to skirt those, and it's going to find its way into the short beach in Nahant and up into 40 steps. It's all the result of studies that we did. We're going back 30 years ago. UMass did a $500,000 study on the algae problem that we all still have. And in doing so, they discovered the currents and the wave actions that take and put place that algae into the corners of each of those outposts. So moving it out is just going to get it caught up in a more free flow of current and take it into the furthest point, the closest point in on the furthest current out. I hope I'm not confusing that, but it's simple. We've got to do whatever we can to avoid that. It's been proven, and Tony, somewhere in the files in the archives of Town Hall is copies of that study with all the current markings and wave actions. So I think it's something, I'd be glad to come in and see if we can dig it up.
Thank you, Jane. Josh?
Yeah, I'll try not to take too long, but thanks, Tony, for reaching out to the secretary and getting some assurance on that end. And also thanks for the efforts on communicating through Nahant.org to the citizens. And I'm also relieved to hear that so far it doesn't seem to be affecting Nahant beaches. And now I'll hop up on my soapbox and say, this situation is inexcusable. It's been going on for as long as I can remember, and it's finger pointing and no one's accepting responsibility. And it's time for this to be dealt with, like now. It's not our, I know, I understand it's not our purview, but you know, it's disgraceful. And if I remember correctly, Tony, well, wasn't there some funds, something to the on the order of like $20 million that the state earmarked for this purpose just about a year ago?
Yes, I think it was bond money. Like it was a bond appropriation that was authorized. So it's not real until it finds itself into a capital plan, you know, through the state's A&F department.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess in summary, you know, I totally agree with Mark. This needs to be dealt with at the source. No stupid band-aids of taking the problem and sticking it out 4,500 feet is ridiculous to even be talking about that. But with that, I'll wrap it up. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Josh. Let me see where I'm at for 1 second. Okay, the only other thing, Tony, before we leave, new business, I'm not sure this is new business, it might be old business. It might be an announcement. I do want to say that the Housing Production Plan Committee is meeting next Tuesday at 6:30 p.m., August 10th. And I think they'll have Michelle address this during Citizens Forum. And you may be addressing it at in your report, Tony, but could you give a quick update on the change of the bylaw for Airbnbs?
So that's Thursday night that the subcommittee is going to be meeting, is Thursday night.
Oh,
But Michelle will speak, like you said, Michelle will speak more to it. So I asked the town clerk about the date. The Attorney General has 90 days to respond. And that 90 day, it's unclear if that 90-day window starts when we first submit the articles for review, or if it starts when they have some follow-up questions and we submit additional information. But either way, it's going to bring that, if it's the latter, it brings us to September 15th. So we should have, we haven't heard anything from the Attorney General's office yet, but we should have some, they should be responding to us at the latest mid-September.
okay.
Unless they reach out to us saying they need more time.
Okay, thanks, Tony. Okay, we can move on. We have some meeting minutes to approve. Would someone like to make a motion on this?
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the Board of Selectmen meeting minutes from February 1st, 2023, March 15th, 2023, and April 5th, 2023.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, just a quick one. Is there a time frame on approval for meetings, for minutes?
I'll let Dan, Tony do that.
No, there's not an exact time frame. This regulation just says as soon as, I think it's reasonable time.
Okay.
But the AG's office, I think, was it Tony, like 2 weeks or something, is what they recommend, but
I thought it was 90 days or by the third meeting after, whichever is sooner.
that might be recommendation for sure, but there's no specific deadline.
Now, that was just curiosity. I just wanted to be sure we were within a time frame that was acceptable.
So we're looking back to April 2000. Yeah, it's not the best part of it, but April 5th isn't such a bad thing. I'm sorry, even back to February. I'm sorry, back to February. I wouldn't be concerned about it.
All right,
Hey,
thanks.
Mike.
We should try to do a little better, be a little more expedient on these. It's sometimes people want to refer to the meeting minutes on the website and stuff, so maybe that could be a little self goal for ourselves to get the minutes approved a little more promptly going forward.
Okay. Hey, Mark, could I just throw two things in there? One is I had a conversation today with Tony, and we were talking about the speeding down on, or alleged speeding down on Willow. And,
Before we get into that, can we just approve these minutes and then I'll let you get on that? Any
idea.
on these minutes? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor?
Gene Canty, aye.
Josh, for mine?
Mark Hill and I. Go ahead, Gene. Sorry for interrupting you.
Sorry about that, Mr. Chairman.
Mhm.
Anyhow, Tony and I were talking about it, and I'm sure you and Josh have been talking about it. And Tony, you want to give an overview or somewhat of an overview of where we're going with that?
Had a community meeting about a month or so ago, and the Ocean View actually offered to purchase and donate some traffic calming measures. They just came in yesterday, and today I asked Zach, as I said to Eugene, my two things I asked, I said, please, but before the end of the week, pressure wash the ramp at the wharf and get those traffic measures installed on Willow Road. So what that is, what we're same, speed sign, that digital speed sign that gets put on the pole. It also is a data collecting device. So we'll be putting that on Willow Road as you're heading towards the golf course. And he also purchased some center line signs similar to those that you'd either find in the parking lot down there or you'd find at like on the crosswalks around town. And really what those do is, especially on Willow Road, which is fairly narrow as it is, what that'll do is, kind of narrow, even make the travel lane a little bit more narrow and cause people to slow down, hopefully. So those should be up and out deployed before, by the end of the week. And then it will be, we'll have to see how good they are at, slowing down traffic. But also since that meeting, I know that, prior to July 8th, we had the police department's temporary, trailer speed sign out there on Willow Road. And I know that the police department's been picking up enforcement in that area as well.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gene. Okay.
The other item I had just quickly is I've seen a lot of articles in the local newspapers on school safety preparations for the new school year coming up. Are we working at all with Tony and his crew over there at the school to be sure everything's up and ready to go?
I'd have to talk to, Tony about that. But I can tell you, he does so much related to school safety. I know he was working on, he had grant funding to layer the doorways where the entryways, layer the glass with some film that makes them, extra strong, makes the glass extra strong. We were working on, I'm actually, while I'm speaking with you, give me 5 seconds here.
While you're looking for that, Tony, I know school does have training sessions with the police and I think with fire department support, at least for the staff at the Johnson School.
Yes, they do that every year as well. I'm looking. The conference committee report on the state budget, they just finalized the FY24 budget and they sent it to the governor's desk. And I'm looking through that because one of the things that we had put a request in for through our state delegation was funding for a security assessment and improvements. I'm looking to see if that got included in the conference committee report, but
And maybe at our next meeting, you can have an update on that, Tony.
okay.
Great. Let's see, before I move on, anything else? Okay, Josh, you wanna?
I found it. I did find it.
Go ahead, Tony.
So this is hot off the press. Hopefully the governor signs the budget. But looks like we secured $50,000 for safety and security improvements at the Johnson School.
Oh, great.
Nice.
Very good. Very good. Thanks, Tony. Josh, any update on East Point?
I guess the only thing I have is that all the depositions that were requested by Northeastern have been completed. As of a couple weeks ago, Mark, you and I both gave our depositions, all-day affairs. So it's nice to have that in the rear view mirror, and it's kind of in the judge's hands from what I understand at this point.
Great. Hopefully we hear soon. Okay, town administrators report.
We also had, under ongoing business, we had a town administrator goals update.
Okay. Mhm.
Just trying to pull up that document right now too. I don't know, do you guys want to go through some of those goals tonight, or did you?
I think what I'd like to do, Tony, if you have Christian, send it to each of us. And if each of the members of the board could make edits to this year, or additions, please do that, and we'll put it on the agenda for our next meeting.
Okay, yeah, and what I can do is I can probably type up, a comment or in a different color text, where we are with the goals that were set from last year.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would say, your assessment, Tony, of where you are on the goals we set for you for last year, and then also your thoughts on goals for the coming year. And then we'll all, as Mark said, make our contributions to that and come up with a unified set of goals, kind of the same, I think, method we've been using over the last few years. Yeah.
Yeah, let's make sure that's on the next agenda.
So I have lowland stormwater update on here. We had some flooding issues caused by rainwater in the last month on Fox Hill Road. Probably goes back a little bit more than that. And we suspected and ultimately proved correct that when National Grid had come through Fox Hill Road and installed their new gas main, they had caused damage to our stormwater system. So we finally got National Grid out there, and they made the appropriate repairs. I took National Grid that day around Nahant and showed them all the other issues I have with things they've done in town. And actually, as a result of that, if you may have noticed or not, Castle Road, the center line to the curb on the outbound side was repaved this week because we had originally agreed upon that as a fine.
They should have paid both sides.
How you doing, George?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just thinking out loud. Excuse me. I didn't know I was on. I didn't know I
That's
was.
all right, no problem. I'll mute you.
I'll talk to you in a little while when it's my turn. Sorry about that.
No problem. Yeah, the reason it's only that one side is because Castle Road had been freshly paved like 2, maybe 3 years ago. And so when Grid came in and said they wanted to redo the gas main under there, they typically would only do a 2 or 4 foot trench repair to that work. But because that road had previously been fully paved, we had an agreement that they would go center line to curb. Originally, they did just a 4 foot patch, and they came out this week and finalized that. So they've made their repairs on the stormwater system in the lowlands area, but in doing so, we discovered some, we got a good look at some of the stormwater system in that area, and it's just desperately needed for needs repair. It's an old system. I think it's like a corrugated metal pipe that once you start moving the earth around it, it crumbles. So it's repaired and it's working. But as you know, we've gone through the assessment process. We've gone through the funding process. The next step, is to really start making progress on what the recommended, next steps would be. And that is to the stormwater system in that area to really evaluate and repair any necessary items. I was supposed to meet with Zach and Vicky Masson, our town engineer, yesterday. I'm now meeting with them tomorrow because Vicky is actually also managing the new water main that we'll be putting in on Fox Hill Road. So what we're going to do, likely what we hope to do, is to include in the bid docs for the water main on Fox Hill Road is to repair the stormwater system on Fox Hill Road as well. Likely, replacing, dig and replace catch basins and pipe work that's under Fox Hill Road, probably lining pipe work that goes under, easements on private property, and really just like making sure that that system is flowing water appropriately where it needs to go. And then, moving on after that will be, depending on funding, the next part of the process would be, dealing with the outfall and improvements on the ditch that goes to Bear Pond. So we're hoping to include it in the bid docs that should be going out later this fall, and hopefully be making some repairs there, necessary repairs, either this fall, winter, or early spring.
Tony, that water work on Fox Hill, that's just lower Fox Hill Road.
It goes from like Rob Thibault's house all the way down to lower Fox Hill Road.
Okay.
I just want to say, I'm extremely eager to see this work get done. Tony has as you know. Anything you can do to accelerate that schedule would be greatly appreciated by me, and I'm sure a lot of other people. So please consider it a very high priority.
Definitely. Yeah, I feel the same way. To me, it would, the sooner if the goal would be to get it done before the winter time, not only because of the benefits that it could provide to us, God forbid we deal with any flooding over the winter, but when you do that, when you do underground utility work, you really want to give it one winter of settling before you come back and repave a street. So ideally, we get that done before the winter. It has a winter of settling, and then we're repaving Fox Hill next year.
Yeah, plan's coming together nicely, tying it into the water work plan for the road and stuff. So yeah, just stay on best you can, because we all about this one. And I know it was on 2023 goals, and it'll be on 2024 goals, I'm sure.
Yep.
Anything else, Tony?
No, I gave the beach water status update. We posted on Facebook today. I just want to commend the DPW, police department, and fire department working together on identifying access points at Short Beach, numbering them with signage. So the effort there is that, if you're in any sort of emergency or need emergency assistance, you can quickly identify the closest access point, when you're on the beach. Instead of struggling to explain over the phone, where you are on the beach, you can say, yeah, I came in on the first ramp or the second, access point 2 or something like that. So we hope to be doing that at Doggy Beach and Tudor Beach soon as well. So I just want to commend those 3 departments for working together on that.
That's a great idea.
And
Thank
you got some pickleball lines,
Oh,
Tony.
yes, pickleball lines were painted this week. So it's open for business. We still got more work to do with the CPC funding there related to lighting and other items like that, but getting the paint on the ground was a big first step.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are excited about that. So
Great, thank you, Tony. Citizens Forum.
Hello?
Go ahead, George, just say your name and address, please.
Yes, George Mahovan, 64 Lennox Road, Nahant. I want to say good evening to everybody, and thank you for an update on the short-term rental bylaw change. That was going to be one of my first questions. So I'd like to probably ask just 2 questions, and then you can answer them. First one is, what's the update on the playground down at Little Nahant down there? And also, number 2, I believe over on Wilson Road, where the public stairs are, Joe Mosher's house. I believe it's done. I believe people are living in there now. When are you going to paint the crosswalk?
Thank you, George. Thank you, George.
It's all right.
Yes, I spoke with Mark Gallagher from Northeast Recreational Group, who's running the playground project for us last week. They are up in Lowell this week, and they'll be coming down next week to scope out the ground, and they're actually going to do the install. So they'll be marking out, working with the DPW to mark out where the foundations are going to be placed. And I believe he said that it's end of August that the equipment is scheduled for delivery. So in a few weeks, we'll have some new equipment installed down there.
Great.
And then, so Joe, I gotta give a shout out to Joe. He made it very simple for us with that project. And, completely rebuilt the entrance to that right of way the stairs that went down to that right of way had completely crumbled, rebuilt them with granite blocking. Still waiting on railings to be installed. The new owners of the home are aware that it's a right of way. And now it's more properly defined. So there's a separate stairway for the homeowners, and as you know, compared to before when it was all one stairway and it was kind of hidden. So there's a stairway right on the right of way, and then there's a separate stairway for the homeowners. And it's come out great, just waiting for the railings. And then as soon as that gets put in, likely we'll go with the crosswalk and, you know, probably put some sort of marking on the ground, identifying the right of way.
Well, yeah, there's a sign on the telephone pole.
Yep.
It hasn't been removed. It's been there since, you know, they did that a bunch of years ago. So, and it does look really nice. And you're absolutely right about the stairway. There was one stairway there that would serve as the entrance to the home and also to the right of way. So it does look nice. It did a real nice job. So I'm very happy the way it came out. Now we could get working on the other right away up at the East Point and get that cleared up. I noticed now that the woman that owns the place has put a plastic, like a barrel container and a bunch of cinder blocks. So you have to really do some stuff to get even down here now. I don't think it's very fair what she's doing because, you know, I believe we own 10 feet of that, if not, from what you're saying, at least 5 feet. So I don't believe she has a right to do that. And I wish someone would go up there and talk to her about it. I mean, it's almost, excuse me, almost impossible to get there now, unless you want to move all this stuff out of the way.
George, is that new, that new flower pot and cinder blocks?
Yep. Yep.
Can we look into that, Tony?
Yeah, Dan, do you have any update on that situation?
George, you said East Point. You mean 250 Wilson?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
but it's also called, we call it East Point. It's on the old Nahant maps. It's called East Point too.
Oh, I didn't realize it was on the high
too.
East Point.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
sorry, but yes, it's
Fair
the one
enough.
at the Little Nahant Wilson Road, the one that's been under contention for a long time. I've been trying to get something done for, I believe Mark Collins was the town administrator when I first kind of talked to him about it. I used to go up there myself with the weed whacker and clear it out all the time because it is a nice place and it'd be a great place to go right now. They have an international sailing competition over in Swampscott, and you could really get a nice view if you were able to go down there on the rocks and watch it.
Hey,
Yeah,
Dan,
so-
why don't you let's add that to the list for our weekly catch-up meeting tomorrow.
Oh, I got it right. I got it on number 7 on my list right here. So
Yeah.
we'll talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, well, thanks.
Yep.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Nothing. That's
Okay. Well, just thank you very much for doing what you're doing, and I hope we can get that playground squared away. I mean, I'm very excited about that, but over here in Little Nahant.
Me too. Thank you.
Thank
You know,
John.
you have any kind of, I'm sorry, any kind of like a grand opening or anything like that when it's all done, or?
I love that. I'd love to do like a ribbon cutting of some sort. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'd like to do that too. I know,
Are you good with scissors?
yes, I am.
We'll let you cut the ribbon.
Maybe
Well,
we can have George slide down the slide and cut the ribbon.
no, I can't, not on my back. I'd be freaking pulling a lawsuit on the town, but making it even worse, for Pete's sake, no.
No, I
I believe me, I would love to, but
I'm-
I have to say no to that. I would really love to, but it's more for the children and, you know, like the children of the children here. As a matter of fact,
We did
those-
that. We did something similar when Flash Road basketball and tennis court got done. So I'd love to do that, George.
yeah, it'd be nice. I mean, you seem to have a little more information about the people around town than I do that are interested in this as much as I am. You could send an all text or whatever all that stuff is, emails to them, let them know, you know, what's going on, and even tell the Lynn item about it or something, just to let them know, because I don't know if a lot of people in the house with the kids even know that this is going to happen.
Okay,
Sounds
thanks,
good.
John.
You're welcome.
Anybody-
Thank you.
Citizen forum.
Great. Thanks again. Good night, gentlemen.
Thanks, George.
Thanks, George.
Thanks, George.
Michelle, are you still with us?
Yes. Michelle Capano, 29 Ocean Street. Just a brief update on the Housing Production Plan Committee. We just concluded our survey on Monday, so thank you to all the citizens and residents that participated and contributed to the survey. We are meeting next Thursday night to review both the survey results and then results from the community engagement we had in June. So we like the public to attend, and we're looking forward to a very interactive session to go through both of those deliverables.
Thank you, Michelle. And as Michelle said, I encourage everybody to try to join us next Thursday. Should be very interesting. How many people responded to the survey so far? Michelle?
Before the end date, it was about 168 respondents, but we also had a percentage that was probably like another 10 or 15% that was still in process. So
Okay.
our partners at MAPC were sending email reminders to the ones in process, making sure that they complete. I'm waiting for final numbers, and we'll talk about them on next Thursday.
Great, thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Chairman, I had one more thing I just wanted to talk quickly about. Was there was an email when it came out from FEMA to all communities in the Charles River watershed area discussing new maps coming out later this fall. I spoke with them, and they removed the town of Nahant and all other coastal communities from that email notification because the maps do not have coastal impact. They're all inland impacting maps. So I just wanted to, I know there was some discussion on it with the planning board meeting and around town. There are no new maps coming out, for that impact the town of Nahant.
That's good news. Great, thanks, Tony.
I did talk to them. They said we have some updates that we have to make to our bylaw, and they sent me the language. They said it was fine if we held off until, we didn't have to do it at a special town meeting. We could do it in the spring. But there were just some updated language we have to incorporate into our bylaw to make sure that we remain compliant.
Great. Sounds good. All right. Okay, is there anybody else on citizens forum? Okay, if there's nobody else, I'll make a motion for adjournment.
I move that the Board of Selectmen adjourn.
Second,
Motion's made and seconded. Discussion, hearing none. All in favor?
Gene Canty, aye.
Josh,
And Mark Cullen, aye. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
bye.
Take care, guys.